Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author of the Earthman Jack Space Saga, available over on Amazon.com. And in today's video, we are going to be kind of wrapping up our coverage on Marvel's big TV slate of announcements by talking about what exactly happened with Netflix and why Netflix decided to cancel all these Marvel shows. So you might find this little behind the scenes analysis interesting, and I hope you like the video. Which actually brings us into our next story, which is basically an interesting little segment in this interview where Jeph Loeb basically admitted that the cancellation of the Marvel TV shows by Netflix was a surprise to the people over at Marvel. So basically, Deadline says, it's a new twist after the Netflix situation, which started on such a high and ended almost as a case of death by 1,000 streaming cuts, didn't it? To which Loeb replies, the hardest part was while the situation at Netflix, of which I really can't go into, other than to say that we were blindsided and the things that were to come weren't finished yet. We weren't ready to announce that, so there was the space in between it. So it did look like maybe we were going to go out. Then suddenly we were arising again like the Phoenix. And I apologize for my reading of this stuff, but like this seems like a transcribed interview. So
it pretty much is, I think.
Yeah. So like there wasn't an editor who came in here and cleaned this up. So I'm trying to read it the best I can. So thank you everyone for your patience with this. But basically from this little bit of information, it sounds like Netflix just kind of, once they saw what Disney was planning in their Disney Plus streaming to come compete with them, it sounded like they got kind of scared. And so they were like, well, we don't want to be paying for these productions that, we're basically paying Disney to make these shows for us that they're eventually going to yank. So it sounds like the people at Marvel were kind of blindsided by the cancellations. And if you watched Daredevil season 3, you kind of knew that, it was obvious they were planning for another season with, some of the cliffhangers there. And then when stuff started getting canceled, Marvel was like, oh, we got to adjust our plans. And so like they changed the Punisher and Jessica Jones to be a more complete story. Matt, what do you think about this? Do you think that this was, something that Marvel should have seen coming, or do you think Netflix was smart to do this now? What are your thoughts?
I think Netflix was crazy. Those Daredevil and Defender shows, all those series were fantastic. I could watch 10 more seasons of Daredevil alone. Probably some of the best stuff Marvel's put out. It's better than some of the movies, in my opinion. The Kingpin, what's the actor that plays the Kingpin?
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, he was amazing. And I was just, it's one of the few shows that I've sat down and watched the entire run in like one sitting. And I hate binge watching TV, but those shows were all good. And I think it was foolish for them to dump them like they did. And I hope Marvel picks them up and keeps running with them when they can, with the same actors, because they should.
Yeah, that'll be a little tricky. We'll see how that plays out. Steve, Mr. Road King, what do you think of Marvel getting blindsided by this? Should they have seen it coming?
That's so hard to say. I mean, I think it's seeing this whole scramble to get audience, with these different channels. I mean, I didn't see Disney making their own channel, at least not this soon. So it's tough to say. I mean, they did get blindsided, and I have to agree fully with Matt that I am shocked by this. It's like the one thing they could yank off the air. Those series, they were great, and they took comics in a way that the comics have gone. They've become more adult over the past 30 years. I'm blown away. It's like, of all the crap you guys could have chucked off the air, that's what you threw here. Come on. But I hope they do pick them up, and I've got my fingers crossed, but not counting on anything. I mean, it seems like Disney's bumbled their TV as well as an exact opposite of how they've handled their movies on some level. I mean, this just sucks. I mean, I won't sugarcoat it anymore. I pray that they get it, but who knows? I think Disney pulled a kind of a slimy Jack move, but what can you do?
All right, so Tom, let's unpack this a little bit from the business perspective. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, well, this basically confirms our report on the whole matter. And basically, for me to break that down real quick, like Matt said, they should have seen it coming. It was an underhanded move by Netflix. It was a stupid move by Netflix. It was a reactionary move by Netflix. They were going to regret it. But right now, to them, it was the best move because they seen as themselves helping the competition. So their easiest solution was to cut it off. And yeah, it took them by surprise. And as I said, they should have seen it coming, though, because they knew this was happening sooner than later. Unlike Steven, they knew in the background that they were going to be doing this, that Disney was going to start their own service. Now, the problem here is, and Disney knew this, and this is why they were blindsided by it, I believe, or at least Marvel anyway, the television side of things, is because they had a contract with Netflix for, I think, another 4 years. If I'm not mistaken, Matt, unless you know different.
I wasn't privy to the contract.
I think it was for originally like a 7-year deal. So there was like another 4 years left on it or something like that, or at least there was last year. So it might only be 3 now, if I'm not mistaken. But point being, they knew these characters were tied up in the Netflix shows no matter what. Disney can't just go out and make new Daredevil tomorrow. They can't. And Netflix knew this. So it was a calculated move on their part to basically sideline these characters for a good couple of years to more or less just say F you to Disney and you're trying to compete with us. That's really all it is. It's just petty bullshit. And again, the sad part is, unless there's some loophole in the contracts to where they can use these characters in movies somehow, which I think we would have seen them in Endgame if that was the case, then I don't think we'll ever see these characters again, at least in the form that we know them as. There'll be something completely different in a couple of years from now on Disney Plus or Hulu. Matt, unless you have something else to add to that, I think that's pretty much the cut and dry of it at this point.
Yeah, I think the reason we didn't see them in the movies is because Marvel Studios is a different branch. For everyone out there who doesn't follow this stuff, so basically Marvel Studios used to be under the control of Marvel Publishing, Marvel Comics, which was run by Ike Perlmutter. And basically Kevin Feige kind of pulled a Game of Thrones fast one on Ike, and because he was frustrated with how Ike was running things. And so he went to Bob Iger, the head of Disney, and said, hey, break me off into my own studio or I quit. And Bob Iger was like, well, we don't want to lose you, so we're taking you out of Marvel Publishing and giving you your own kingdom within the Disney empire. So that was a power play by Kevin Feige to basically break the Marvel Studios away from the publishing. But the TV part of the production stayed with Marvel Publishing. And so,
well, and for some context, Ike Perlmutter is a penny pincher, big time, and a control freak. So just so that's out there.
Yeah, so like Feige wanted to do a bunch of stuff that Perlmutter kept vetoing, and he was getting really frustrated. But basically, Jeph Loeb, who runs the TV end of things, he's still kind of under the control of Perlmutter. And so there's that division there between the TV side and the movie side, which is why we don't see a lot of crossover going on there. But the ramifications of this are kind of interesting, because in the contract of what I do know between Netflix and Marvel is that there's a non-compete clause for at least 2 years after the time of cancellation, where Marvel can't take those characters and put them on like a different service or a different network. So basically, I forget when exactly Netflix dropped the ban hammer on them, but from that point on, or the cancellation hammer, from that point on, basically Marvel isn't allowed to use these characters at all in terms of TV or movies for 2 years. And 2 years is a long time, because actors can go off and get booked on other series or other movies and scheduling wise and stuff like that. So when they do bring them back, if the actors aren't available, it might be hard to get them to come back. But there is the possibility that Marvel is giving these actors assurances that, once the non-compete period's over, they're going to reboot these shows on Hulu or probably Hulu, not the Disney Plus end of things. So
that's what I would think.
Yeah. So like that's a big possibility. Although like I do think that the only good Netflix show, in my opinion, was Daredevil. Daredevil was just consistently really good. All the others were.
There could be something to what you're saying, though, man. There could be something to what you're saying because Vincent D'Onofrio had kind of alluded to something like that in a couple of tweets. And he'd even mentioned and teased something about showing up in a Spider-Man movie in the future. So you never know. You never know. That's a good possibility. And this was right at the same time all these shows were getting banned. Canceled. Canceled. All these shows are getting canceled because they are pretty much banned from use. That's the thing. That's what kind of got it. And so he was saying all this. So it kind of makes me believe that you might be onto something there. Of course, speculatively, but
yeah. But I got to say, just off of this one Deadline article, Marvel has some very big plans for their TV unit going forward. And before we head on to the next topic, I want to get your guys' closing thoughts on the future of Marvel TV. And are you excited about it? Where do you think it's going to go? Is it going to be more focused on Hulu or Disney Plus? Matt Vader, why don't you tell us what your final thoughts are on Marvel's TV slate?
I'm excited for like the Hulu type stuff. I like the edgier, more PG-13 R-rated type stuff. So what is the horror, the terror stuff?
It's called Journey into Terror. The
Journey into Terror stuff. I will definitely be checking out. I'm kind of excited about that. I've been thinking, it's like, what about the Mephisto character? Isn't he like somebody that's
a possibility?
Work with all those guys at the same time. It's like making these little side deals, and Mephisto is basically the devil, right?
Yeah, he basically ruined Spider-Man for a good long run.
Yeah, and they also, Hellstrom, the only thing I know about him is he is the son of the devil. That's the only thing I really know.
Yeah,
so that could play into that whole thing too. You never know.
I got this weird like anthology show going through my head right now with like Mephisto playing the Crypt Keeper role at the beginning of the show. So I don't know.
Twilight Zone for the Marvel universe.
Yeah, for sure. So
all right, Steven, what are your final thoughts on Marvel's TV slate?
Well, I'm excited. I think it can turn out something really good. My biggest concern is that they're not cleaning up their mess. I mean, this Netflix thing, Disney, it's, to paraphrase an old friend of ours, it's like two retards hitting each other with sticks. I mean, they just did a terrible job of handling this on both sides. And I didn't realize Netflix had pulled that crap. That's just awful. But because, we suffer. And it's like, you want audiences to stick around, do it right. But I'm excited. I think this has a lot of potential, and I'll definitely tune in to check it out. I don't know how long I'll stick around. I'm pretty finicky these days, but this could turn out to be something really cool. So cautiously optimistic again.
And Tom, what are your final thoughts on this proposed Marvel slate?
I pretty much agree with everybody here, and I gotta just say, like with what Steven just said, yeah, it was pretty stupid on Netflix's part, and I'm sure they'll learn in the long run that they would have been better off hanging on to the situation, because they could have been the vindictive girlfriend then. They could have really had some fun with them then. They go, no, we're going to change this. We want you to change this in the show, and really made the shows really bad and really messed with them for the next couple of years. But instead, they took what they seen as the easy out and the quick jab now, and instead they could have really hit them hard later on. But anyway, I think the one thing that stands out to me besides the horror stuff, which I'm really interested in seeing what they do there with that stuff, like everybody else here, is Howard the Duck. I mean, Howard, I am so still stoked about. I can't wait to see what they do with Howard. So, and that could even tie in with a lot of this stuff too, because he deals with a lot of crazy shit in the comics too. So it'll be interesting to see how much these shows cross over with each other, how much the horror stuff might even interact with the other stuff. You never know. It'll be interesting to see. Now, what I hope it doesn't become is Ike Perlmutter's penny pinching crap, because if that's the case and the shows just get junky, then that's the only thing I'm afraid of. Because I loved the Netflix shows, but I didn't get too deep into them. I still have a ways to go, but I fell out because I'm like, oh, they started canceling them left and right, and I hadn't finished them yet. So I was like, well, screw this. What's the point? So I really hope that these shows are good enough to keep me interested. And
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because we've talked about the streaming wars that are coming up on the horizon, where content is going to be king, and the more content these streamers have, the more reason people have to subscribe to them and stay subscribed on the long term. And Disney has definitely got a formidable slate of content coming our way, and I'm sure Netflix is kind of scared about that because their content offerings have been pretty anemic, especially this year. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. I hope you got a lot out of it. And remember, if you want to support the channel, please check us out on the socials. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Matthew Kadish. You can also find our discussion group over on Facebook at eggfbgroup.com. That's eggfbgroup.com. Takes you right to our Facebook discussion group. And if you'd like to help support the channel, check out my books over on Amazon.com. You can find them by going to kadishbooks.com. That's Kadish books.com. And as always, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new video for more movie, TV, and entertainment news and analysis. This is Matthew Kadish. I'll catch you guys later.